So, hello to everybody to our first retail webinar from Sony. My name is Markus Deserno and I'm happy to have two guys here. First of all, Xavier.
Well, my name is Xavier Carreras and I'm basically doing business development management for Navori across certain territories in Europe. So I'm very happy to be here and thank you for the invitation.
And Ben.
Thank you, Markus. It's a pleasure to be joining you here on the webinar. My name's Ben Cope. I'm with Intel Corporation, and I'm a principal engineer in our network and edge group.
Yeah, we will talk a little bit about store experience in retail today. What we see in the past is that there are really a lot of changes. We are really happy that the people want to go into the store, but at the end, there's a lot of changes has happened, and also the mindset of the client are changing. So, Xavier, what's your opinion to that?
Well, what we've seen is that there's like a clear transition from traditional signage to digital signage to smart signage. Mm-hmm. And we are trying to make the experience in store as much personalized as possible from Navori. And this is why we are always building different solutions that can work natively and provide value to the end client, but also to our partners or the people that is managing the stores.
Okay, and Ben, from Intel, what's your view on that?
Yeah, so in terms of the store experience, we're sort of seeing two classes of customer. So you have the customer who just wants to leave the store, wants to get their purchase and go. So for that, we're seeing the sort of frictionless experiences being a big trend. Yeah. You also have the people who are going shopping for pleasure, want to spend some time there. The store wants to provide that compelling experience versus purchasing online, and that's where personalization is really important.
Yeah, I think, and there's a lot of changes up there, and I read something from PwC that 80%, and that's for US, but probably it's also going to be in Europe the same, are looking for more convenience in the stores, and that's what they're looking for. Do you provide any solutions to this kind of convenience for retailers?
Well, it's always about impacting the right way at the right moment to the right person, and this is from our perspective as a pure digital signage company, what we are trying to do. As you know, we have a very powerful digital signage platform, but we needed to complement it with another solution that was based more in real-time data. Yeah. This is something that actually we co-developed in the past or during these years with Intel. And it was a need from the industry, and it was a need from our clients that they really wanted to have control over the message that they were transmitting and they were bringing to the people in the store and make the experience more relevant. So showing exactly what they care about and also being able to trace it. So to have a little bit of accountability and then also check if that data was making sense with everything that was happening in the online world. So yeah, from the Navori perspective, we have two solutions. One is traditional signage, but the other one is completely computer vision based solution. Mm-hmm. And our intention is to make the in-store experience as much personalized as possible with the help of Intel in this case.
But coming back to that point, I think relevance is something we really have to talk about, and that's Absolutely. What really is changing in that point. And I think the people are learning what relevance means on the online world. But I think Intel is really ahead with solutions around that. What can you tell us about that, Ben?
Sure. We had a really nice case study published in our newsroom recently. The company Nourish and Bloom in the US, where they did their first store deployment, actually came up with the concept during the pandemic that leverages Intel technology. It's using Intel core processors and 3D cameras. And one of the nice things there about how technology is used and is talked about in the article to provide that frictionless experience is a combination of sensors. Yeah. So they're using 30 cameras in the ceiling, but as well as weight sensors on the shelves. To be able to provide that tracking of what goods have been collected, provide that, but really all, like you said before, with that 80% of customers looking for a more convenient experience, really helping deliver that with technology.
Well, when I was reading this article, I was just thinking about a film I was watching. It's Truly Love. probably it's called.
The one that you mentioned, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Love Actually.
Loved Actually. Sorry. And in that point, there was also a client. At the end, it was a husband buying something for his girlfriend. That's not really a convenient thing at the end, but he wants to get it really, really quick. But he has been in a department store, and in the department store there was Mr. Bean who was serving him. And then Mr. Bean has taken really long time to put everything together, some roses in there and all these things, just to buy a little backlight. And I think the clients now love this kind of environment when everything is packed together, but that's also the change, that there is a lot of more convenience, that it's going a little bit quicker, because the experience has to happen before, not only when you're purchasing something like that. But coming back to online, offline, well, I think the industry learned a lot of online KPIs based on that.
Absolutely.
But coming to in-store KPIs, what are your meaning, or what are your feeling about which KPIs are really relevant for clients and also for brands to measure, to find the right solution for their clients? Xavier, you will start?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that it varies client to client and field to field. But I think that what we try to achieve is to provide exactly the same KPIs that they are tracking online. So then they can have, and they can correlate both data that come from offline and online, and even create more omni-channel experiences, no? But the issue is that if you are not really good at understanding how people is behaving in the retail environment, it's very difficult to correlate that. But on our case, we built a technology based exactly on the same metrics, because the budgets are the same, the commercial budgets are the same, and the people that is tracking these numbers are most likely the same, or they working in similar teams, or even they work together. So we want them to provide data that they can trace from online to offline. So we try to build kind of like a Google plus Google AdWords, but on the point of sale, which I believe it brings actually more value. And I can tell you that I've been in some case studies, and we really see that when you show the right content to the right person at the right time, and you are able to track it, and even to track it to the point of sale data, you can actually see that there's a real impact. So it's clear, it feels obvious, but the data is actually telling you that the better you communicate, the more likely you're going to increase your sales, and the data is there.
But at the end, everything has to be connected. And Ben, what's your thinking about KPIs on really physical stores?
Yeah, so I think obviously it's important to show the impact and business results of any use of technology. You know, you have a capex investment you make, often OpEx to install technology, so you want to show the results. And if we look at another sort of trend we see, which we'll call store as a medium, so focus specifically on advertising, where your store becomes that advertising asset. And for that, you know, what we look at similar to Navori, and what we've also discussed is this thing we call 3A's. So that means in the analytics you're providing from the signage, you want to be addressable, accountable, and attributable.
Absolutely.
And regarding sort of the online, one of the challenges is to track from someone seeing an advert, say in a store or in the street, to actually some behavior online. Right? And actually, we did a sort of out-of-home deployment with Hivestack and Liveboard for actually Intel advertising. And in the case studies written up on their website, you know, we talk about achieving almost 9% uplift in intent, right? And this is sort of the where the sort of KPIs come in. So how do you measure success? And this was really intent from the target audience. Maybe it's looking at a relevant website or something like that.
I think being in this industry for more than 20 years, I think the expectation of the clients have ever been to really have a return on invest what they had. But when we look into the past, there was just more or less marketing-driven installations, not really based on KPIs, and that's with all the data, and that's really a big point. I think there's a big change in that. But also coming back to our role from Sony at that point, we announced now just 2 weeks ago that we have a cooperation together with Navori,
yes,
based on our SoC. Well, what's your feeling? What do you think about the Sony and Navori idea?
Well, I think that it's just like a perfect marriage, because it's two companies that are completely complementary and striving for quality.
Yeah.
And I think that to deliver this package solution, especially in the SoC platform of Sony, I think it makes all the sense. As you know, we develop a specific native player for the SoC from Sony Bravia.
Yeah.
And we are trying to approach the market and explaining that, of course, if you want to have like a cost-effective, powerful installation using two reputable brands in the digital signage field, like Sony, which I believe probably it has the best, quality of image.
Thank you.
And I believe that probably the most interoperable solution from the digital perspective. So I think it's a perfect marriage, and we are very happy. We are very looking forward to the next steps of our cooperation, and I'm sure that great projects are going to come from this partnership.
Yeah, thank you to that. But I think also, and that's one point where we at Sony really looking for and working together with brands like Intel. It's yes, SoC is one solution, but at the end there are a lot of other things. And when we're talking about omni-channel and more computing power, just to be installed in the store, I think there's a big advantage of working with Intel together.
Absolutely, and I think different compute architectures are used in different installations, right? And there's different KPIs, different metrics, different constraints, right, in an install to use different architectures. And I think one of the nice things we can provide as an industry, and what we provide as Intel, is that range of compute, from the sort of Intel Atom through Intel Xeon in our processor line. So whether we talked about edge computing earlier, whether it's edge computing in a store and you putting your higher end core processors or Xeon in edge compute, or you have a distributed compute model, then that flexibility I think is quite important.
Okay. Perhaps a little personal question, but what do you think, which kind of solutions or which kind of ideas will be the hottest within the next years? So probably what's coming up, or what you have seen when you're just passing shops, or when you're just going into shops or planning on projects. What's your personal opinion that will be the next hot thing?
Actually, I think that's actually related with what you said about return of investment. I think that a lot of times we try to think about innovation just for the end client, but sometimes innovation per se, it has no sense if we don't provide a real value for the people that are owning the shops.
Yeah.
So our partners. In this case, the integrators or the end clients. And one of the trends that I'm trying to push, and I see that is getting traction, is to really be able not only to do smart signage and provide a very personalized experience, but also to have kind of like a good connector with a POS system, and really understand what are the purchasing habits of the people, especially for companies that they don't have a big presence online. And I can tell you that, as you know better than anyone, there's a ton of companies and a ton of big companies that they have a lot of experience and KPIs online, but a lot of small companies like drugstores, electronic stores, appliances stores, pharmacies, they don't have this knowledge. So to provide this kind of innovation that they are able to trace how people behave in a completely anonymized way using edge computing from Intel or other companies, but in our case we use the edge from Intel. I think it's very important to be able to not only provide innovation in store for the clients, but also for our partners.
Yeah. Okay. Ben, I really like this idea, because at the end, the journey is not starting in the store. It's not ending at the store or online or offline. It's just a whole way around, and you have attack points at every step the client is making, and so you have to provide really the more integrated solutions to them. And talking about seamless things, I think Intel is just ahead of that as well.
Yeah, I think Xavier had it completely right that I think one of those big trends is looking through the whole value chain.
Yeah.
So the product's life doesn't start just in the store and then when you get to your home. So you have this chain right from the supply chain, the deliveries to home, and then obviously returns or use at the end. So I think the use of data and analytics, as you were describing, but considering through that whole chain, so how some of your how your technology may be used in the store and the derived analytics and insights impacts that full chain.
And what I also see is that talking about relevance, KPI, and all that, that really a lot of companies, and we're working as Sony, we're working together with them, trying to find out which kind of touch points really work for them.
Yeah.
So it's not just a marketing idea; it's just a lot of touch points in their lighthouse projects.
Place and learn, lift and learn, comparing products.
All this, and then at the end they will check which kind of touch points are really making sense for them, and then they put it out into their retail environment. And I think that's the big change in the market, that there are really knowledge about the success or the not success of something is, because also what we've seen is gamification. I like this one because you can activate people, but at the end I was also working with a client, and he wants to have some gamification based on that. His shops were really full because everybody was looking there, but at the end it was not the target group he was looking for. So it was not successful at the end because he did not have the revenues based on that. So having the relevant target group, the relevant content and all that, I think that makes sense.
Also the five senses, no? So sometimes we tend to focus too much on visual because it's our primary sense.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of companies that are trying to interact with other senses like smell. I can put you a lot of examples of companies that we work with that they try to create a 360 degrees ecosystem when they are in the stores. With Akewele or companies like that it's not only visual, it's about touch points as well. It's about what you hear, it's about what you smell. So it's like a complete
it's a whole
strategy.
story. It's a whole story about that.
This is where is the advantage of actually going to a store offline than not online. You're never going to have the same experience. You're not going to have the same let's say fast buying experience that you can have online. But offline, you can trigger so many more things. Yeah,
but also what we learned in the last years, and that's something that's coming up, I think 3 or 4 years ago. We're talking about sustainability.
Yeah.
And what we are looking for that is that based on the footprint, the carbon footprint, normally 80% of the footprint is done by the usage of a product. Yeah. So we as Sony, we really look after to have all the 20% in our mind, and we're taking care of a lot of things we just put in there. But talking about the 80% of that, because the 20 is just a little step to that. What's your idea from Intel behind sustainability?
Sure. So of course we have sustainability practices in our chip development. So that's an important element in that 20% you're describing. Yeah. But in the 80%, it doesn't stop there. But in the 80% that you describe, one of the interesting trends in the area of retail and whether it's a quick serve restaurant, whatever, is the use of AI-based technology, which we're powering with our processor products to really help with sustainability. For example, in supply chain. So how could you use AI in a fast food restaurant to minimize your waste? Can you detect what people are throwing away, predict what you need to cook based on queue of people coming in, that sort of thing?
I really like that point because I've also read something about that a big quick service restaurant chain is really able to take more responsibility based on the product they really serve to the client at that point. So normally they produce it in the back and then they hope the client will come up. But now with more technology based on that, they are able to just synchronize more that people coming up and what they really
predict
produce.
The demand, no? I guess. Yeah.
But on software, at the end, software is it really? Could it be sustainable, or is it? What's your idea of Navori behind that?
Well, actually, while having conversations with you and with other people in the industry, I realized something that I was not aware, because in Navori we only develop native players, which allows us to have full control of no matter which screen you are using, or hardware, or digital signage player. So for me it was a given. But speaking with integrators, I realized that I didn't know that other companies were actually even leaving the screens completely turned on during the nights, just with the black content or stuff like that. When in Navori, the way that I believe we can achieve or help companies achieve sustainability is providing them full control from the software perspective. So no matter which kind of screen you're using, hardware, etc., I'm always going to be
only Sony screens, you know.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we have a very good control over the Sony SoC, and the idea is that if you have, just to put the example, if you have like a QSR with hundreds of Sony screens, you're going to be able to basically organize when do you want them to be turned on, turn off, the power consumption, etc. So we give to the integrator and the end client the full control to achieve as much sustainability as possible with their digital signage. And this is, I believe, the role of companies like ours, like from Navori. So we can provide good software that goes to the root of the screen, and we can give you control to do whatever you wish. And that's the good statement.
We were also talking about the theme of sustainability 2 weeks ago on the Digital Signage Summit in Munich. And at the end, yes, it's not only the screen that makes sense, and that's what you're also telling us. And also coming back to the point of Sony, yes, we're taking care of the 20% in the advance, but yes, working together with a company like you and also others, we try to set our partners in the point that they could manage this, but also we have some technology in our screens that can just save power consumption as well. So at the end, it's coming up from really different points to that, but at the end, we all have to be confident with this, and we all have to take care, because at the end, it's our planet, and we really have to save it for our children. But at the end, also there's a big market behind that. So you ever thought about technology that's based on sustainability for new products?
Yeah, so I think it was really important points that Xavier was mentioning, and I think it's what probably in sustainability can link the three of our companies here together. One of the nice trends, I think, is about engineering the right solutions in, whether it's in software, whether it's remote management capabilities we engineer into our chips, such as the active management technology, whether it's what you're doing in displays. It's really about helping provide that assurance that if you do power off your screen at the end of the day, as a simple example, it's going to come back on in the morning, it's going to be working, and if something isn't happening, you can remotely fix it. And that's sort of really important part, because then overall you're saving that energy from running your screen maybe with black content through the night, because you're worried about turning it off.
And this is also why you need to rely on, I think, on companies that are experienced in the field, because you need to have this trust that the companies that we're providing the hardware and the software are going to achieve exactly what you wish. So I believe that to put the trust on companies that they have the experience in the market is actually very important. And what we want, I think that from Sony perspective, Intel and our perspective as well, is that our clients sleep well at night. They don't have to think if the screens turn on, turn off. If there's an issue, they can always access the screen. They can remotely fix it. So at the end, they provide a better experience.
That sounds like a perfect world to me. I think there will be some issues at the end, but the second point is not only to have the capability, also to use it. And I think that's a big step where we can just make a step forward if we use the technology we have in there. We're talking about experience and all that, but that's nice to talk about, but we also have to talk about sustainability and all about the relevance of that. And so it's a mixture of this kind of experience, but also probably sustainability could be a experience for the people as well.
Yeah, and I would even say this is something I didn't push for any client, but I think that it's also relevant. If you have the technology that allows you to know who's in front of the screen, you can also lower the consumption of the screen if there's no one in front of the screen. So you still have the same value, because at the end the client, what they want is that you show content when there's someone in front, but when there's no one in front, if you have an assistant that is intelligent enough to understand if there's a person or an audience in front of the screen, you can just turn it off and just that, and turn it on when it's needed.
Yeah. Coming to a new point, and that's a point where I'm really, as working now for a long time with signage and systems like this, business critical. So when we started working with signage, we just hang the screens on the wall, and then we were hoping that everything is running out. But it's now different. Now the screens and all the solutions taking a more responsible role. They are completely integrated in the systems. And also what we've seen is that if the screen or the software or even the computer or just the background that is not working, that you have to close shops. What are your experience, or what are your ideas behind that? Xavier.
Okay. Well, I can start. I would say that our role as well as a pure player and as a software company is to provide the best product that we can, a reliable, a product that is not going to fail. And if it fails, because every technology can fail, that you have the right tools to monitor it, to trigger the right response from the right people, and traceable and trackable. And also another thing that I think is very important, and I'm a little bit concerned with a lot of things that are happening in the market, companies, software companies being acquired by integrators and stuff like that, or companies that are outsourcing their support. I think the support part is actually critical when you are doing business continuity. So to have a team that is completely trained in-house, that really know well the solution and know how to act, I think it's key. So to have a really good product or a really good solution, very trustworthy, but also if something happens, that you have the resources and you have the knowledge and you have a really good support team to make it possible. And if I may add, this is actually why we get big rollouts, because we can provide this kind of ecosystem to the integrators.
At the end, just a question to that point, because I think that's a relevant part, and then we're switching over to you, Ben, but combining and having a platform which is able to talk to other platforms and to other softwares, that's probably the key issue based on that, because otherwise you won't get the information out of the system. Is that something from your technology that you did from the start?
Yes, absolutely. And actually you touched a very important point, because we create the code from scratch for every single player, and even our solutions speak the same language. We have a full control of everything that happens. So what happens sometimes when you have like web-based players or let's say no native players, there's a lot of middleware, firmware, and when there's an issue, you don't know who you have to go.
Okay.
And one advantage of having just one technology created by one company and the support team belonging to that company is that when there's an issue, if there's an issue, the company is always there to support you. So yes, native players is very important to ensure business continuity and to be able to scale up solutions in big rollouts is very crucial.
Now coming up to you, Ben. Sorry, but I was really interested in that point at the end. But talking about Intel, I think it's the most reliable company I know, based for technologies and this. So, how much effort do you really put on these kind of things that the systems are up and running and putting in some new technologies on that? Is that something Intel is really taking care of?
Yeah, I think we certainly, if you look at our IoT business and what we've done as a group for the IoT market, we adopt our processor lines from big Intel, but in sort of the core processors, and certainly one of the value adds we can bring to that is validating with the long-term service branches of Windows, for example, and also validating the hardware for longer life and longer use conditions. Right? That's one of the value we add at the silicon level. One interesting thing when I was listening to Xavier talk, I think there's sort of two sides to this with business critical. There's certainly that ensuring and engineering that that your products are reliable, or as reliable as they can be. But there's also the other aspect in the business critical applications, and you touched on a really interesting point, which I think relates nicely to edge computing. So one of the values of consolidating your workloads at the edge is that you can be running multiple systems or multiple applications on that edge computing and make it more natural for them to exchange insights. So we talked earlier maybe about a fast food restaurant where you might want to adapt your signage based on your stock levels. So if your stock management software and your signage content management system is on the same platform, then you can inform between them. Maybe hamburgers are low in stock, so let's start advertising a different product.
Yeah, but I think at that point we're not at the start, because when you're looking at shop floors or when you're looking in factories or even looking on quick service restaurants, I've seen restaurants has to be closed because the system was not working. So we have more or less coming to a new age. And I think the integrators that are taking care of that, and also the partners that are taking care of that, we work with some of them, really have to know what the client's needs is. So answering the question behind the question is something the integrator has to learn, because he's going to be a completely integrated piece of a big picture. Absolutely. So that's really changing, and that's what I see, that the industry is really growing and getting more and more bigger, and also more relevant to that point. So I think also business critical computing will be coming up in nearly every store at the end, because the integration of a solution like yours, and you mentioned the edge computer, is something that is really a future that's coming up. Probably coming up to a last but open question. What's something, after now talking about 30 minutes, what's your opinion about what's our relationship? So what do you think would be, if you just have one idea, what would your idea be about?
You mean our relationship?
Yeah.
Definitely quality.
Yeah.
I think that 3 reputable players in different aspects of digital signage and also computer vision technologies. So if you want to strive for quality, and if you want to strive for reputation, and also to have full control of your installation, I think that just work with Sony, just work with Navori, and just work with Intel. We work together in developing all the OpenVINO algorithms together. We have a team actually in Intel. We work very well with them. We also work very well with you guys. So partnerships with the right people, it's always interesting, and it's something that we strive on our company.
Okay, Ben.
Yeah, and to me, it's a very similar theme, but not one of us alone can deliver the solution that everyone is looking for. And I think we touched on some interesting themes today, around the sustainability angle, delivering that those in-store experiences and the business critical. Yeah. And I think the common thing to me across those is how each of our technologies and and working together, like you mentioned, with OpenVino, really help deliver that full solution.
Okay. Then now coming to the Q&A, I hope that everybody's just sending out some questions to us. I got the first question on my system, so that does mean how does the panel see digital and online content being applied effectively in physical stores? Probably that's more or less a software question, or it is...
Okay.
Well, what's your opinion to that?
So I'm not gonna name the brand, but we have, for example, experience with a very big furniture company, and they wanted to actually understand what was the response from the online to the offline when they are triggering the same kind of content to the same kind of demographic people, and they wanted to see if there was a relevance, and what they discovered actually is that that people behave very similar when being contacted online and offline. So I believe that what we can do from the software perspective is just try to provide the KPIs, as I already said, provide the right KPIs. So these people that work in the marketing departments and they manage the budgets, or even the advertising companies, when we talk about digital out of home, or even with programmatic, that I think is also one of the trends, the integration of digital signage, programmatic and computer vision, so the 3 legs. I think it's actually something that is going to happen rather soon than later with Hivestack and other companies. But to be able to provide the same level of confidence and the same level of KPIs, I think it's very important for them.
Yeah. Ben, you any feelings about that?
I think it sort of speaks to some of the themes we described earlier, and it's a great question. I think it's about that, providing that omni-channel experience. Yeah. And I think certainly, to the specific question, I think it comes down to the content and to some of the themes you described before, Markus, that in these deployments, they've really got to be, well thought through to have that impact in targeting the right demographic. And I think that just comes as part of the content creation.
I think also when we're talking about this, we're talking about DXP at the end. Probably there are a lot of companies trying to get in there. One of large, I think there are one larger companies just trying to get in there. But at that point, it sounds for me like a perfect world, and I think there will be more connectors based on that, because that's something that really makes sense. That marketing is not providing offline content and then a content for a store and something else. It has to be the same campaign with everything based on that. But I think there is still a way to go for that, based on the solutions we see. But that could be just a lack of knowledge about the other market, because the offline market does know a lot about themselves, the online market, but now they have to get together, and that's nearly the same as we've seen in the starting of signage. The ones who was able to create a website were not able to create content for signage.
Yeah. So
I think there's a way to go. Another question, and I think it's going to be nearly the last one. I tried to find I tried digital signage before, and I did not see the ROI. What tip do you have? Why should I use it again?
I can have a run at that first. So I think you talked before about the evolution of how people have used digital signage. From starting off maybe with, I think you referred to it as hang and bang, right? They directly replace a printed signage with a digital. And I think, like we've talked about through this presentation, the signage has to become more integrated with all the different functions, whether it's of your store or your restaurant, to really bring those KPIs and value. So whether that's integrating with your stock system or whatever, and really be able to measuring, through like the insights and Navori work on measuring the impact and being able to demonstrate that impact.
Yeah, I think that I actually think in a similar way. Everything comes to being effective in the point of sale with the digital signage. So sometimes it's not about having a lot of screens, it's about having the right screen at the right place, showing the right content. And I think that the traceability and the accountability that you can have from the next generation of digital signage, which we call like the smart signage, I think it's going to be crucial for companies to really see a return of investment, because until now they only see a screen playing content, which I believe it has a lot of value if done correctly. Yeah. But if at the same time you can use it as a channel of communication, that you can trace it to the point of sale, and you can also understand, okay, what can I do with this data that I'm retrieving? Now I know how many people look at the screen, which gender, which age, what they bought. So I think that accountability and traceability is very important.
Yeah, I think at that point the industry has also learned, and the client have learned a lot. And coming back to the example I had before with the websites, first of all, when you had a website, you were not successful with it because you didn't know how to use it successfully. And I think that was when you first installed things, and we had this kind of hang and bang, and with no really ideas behind that. I think it's different today. You have another approach, you have another idea for that, and I hope that you will try it again to have some signage in your system or in your environment. And I think today we are on another level of that.
Absolutely.
So then we're coming up to the end. Thank you, Ben. It was really a pleasure. Thank you, Xavier. It was a pleasure being here in Weybridge at the Sony headquarters. And don't forget, we will send out a poll, so please fill in this one, and hope to see you again. Thank you.